this is going to be the most competitive Eastern Conference we've seen in a few years. We got teams like the Celtics, Knicks, Bucks, 76ers, and then we have dark horse teams like the Pacers, Magic, and Cavs. And while the Boston Celtics were head and shoulders over the rest of the league last season, I don't think that is going to be similar this season. I think teams have made significant upgrades to their roster that make them close the gap a little bit more on the Boston Celtics. So after that intro, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to At the Buzzer Sports, where we talk all things basketball and football all the time. I am your host, John Drummond, and today we're going to be giving my way too early Eastern Conference standings. So obviously, first we're going to be breaking this down to tiers. I'm going to go from the bottom to the top, and first team I'm going to be starting out with my lottery teams, which is the Raptors, Pistons, Bulls, Wizards, and Nets. And I'm just going to be going team by team with this. So for the Brooklyn Nets, I think they're going to be god-awful. I mean, Cam Thompson, there's a lot of things that you can go through with this season and be like, okay, we learned that Cam Thomas, my bad, can't be a number one option. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of people thinking that, but you definitely would like to see what you have with him. Even guys like Dariq Whitehead and Nicholas Claxton, you're going to really figure out what these players are made of going into your future. And then you still have guys like Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Ben Simmons who you can move. As for the Washington Wizards, they definitely did have a good draft. I didn't necessarily love the Denny Advia trade, but you still have guys like Bilal Coulibaly, and then there's guys like Bub Carrington, who I think is going to be a very good point guard behind Malcolm Brogdon. And then you have Keyshawn George, who is at most probably going to be a 3-and-D wing. As for the Chicago Bulls, they have recently traded DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso, who I think they could have gotten a lot more for DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. But you do draft Matas Buzelis, who was a top 5 prospect. He fell all the way down to 11. I think he's going to have a very good rookie year. You have the breakout season of Kobe White that you can now build on. I don't necessarily like the Josh Giddey trade, not because I don't think Josh Giddey can be good, but the fact that you're bringing in another guard to a team that already has a lot of guards. Now you're in a position like the Portland Trail Blazers, where you have guys like Josh Giddey, Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White, Lonzo Ball is going to be coming back, and you also have Zach LaVine. Those are 5 guards in your rotation. All of those 5 guards need minutes. And it's just like you saw how good Ayo Dosunmu was in the starting lineup. He was an 18-point per game type of player when starting, and now you're bringing him back off the bench for Josh Giddey. But for the simple fact, I think the Bulls are going to be bad because their pick is top 10 protected this season, and I'm sure they're going to want that pick. For the Detroit Pistons, this could either go really bad or this could be a step in the right direction. I think Ausar Thompson or Ron Holland is going to have to show flashes of having a league average jump shot for them to be solid. I still don't think they're putting the best team around Cade Cunningham, but you have your guy. Now you have to build around him properly, which I feel as though should have started a long time ago. Cade Cunningham is a great scorer. He's a great playmaker, and now you're just bringing in pieces that cannot shoot, therefore taking away the space for Cade Cunningham to grow, and he has not. He has grown, but this is not the best situation for him to reach his ultimate peak. And then the last team I have in the lottery is the Toronto Raptors. I definitely like how good RJ Barrett's been playing. Emmanuel Quickley is on breakout watch this season. Scotty Barnes looks like he's going to be that guy that doesn't have a lot of weaknesses in his game. He's a 3-level scorer. He can rebound. He has all the potential in the world to be a solid defender. And then I really like Kaman Malak in this draft class coming up, and I feel like he would fit perfectly next to Scotty Barnes. So the order I have for the lottery teams is Raptors at 11, Pistons at 12, Bulls at 13, Wizards at 14, and the Brooklyn Nets at 15. As for my play-in teams, I have the Indiana Pacers, the Miami Heat, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Atlanta Hawks. I said Orlando Hawks, the Atlanta Hawks. I think Trae Young really has a chance this season to really cement himself into a top 5, top 6 point guard in this league. And it's solely because of the pieces you have around you and how you can elevate your team. And we all know the roster around Trae Young is not the best, but it's definitely play-in worthy in this Eastern Conference. And I think Trae Young is one of the better scorers and playmakers in this league, and he's one of the better offensive engines in this league. So he's going to definitely have to elevate Zachary Reese-Sachet's game, DeAndre Hunter, Dyson Daniels, even Onyeka Okongwu. And if I'm the Hawks, I definitely want to try to make the playoffs because you do not have your pick this season. But I think Zachary Reese-Sachet playing with Trae Young, maybe Dyson Daniels, Onyeka Okongwu, I think he's going to get a lot of open shots to where maybe he can shoot from 35 to 38% from the 3 this season. And I think that's solid enough for them to make the play-in. And as for the Charlotte Hornets, I'm sure you guys saw my short that dropped yesterday. The Charlotte Hornets are a season away, a healthy season away from really figuring out, like, look, we have our core. Now we just have to let these guys build out. Now we have to put the proper pieces around Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. We have Mark Williams. We have Miles Bridges. We just drafted Tijon Salone. I think VJ Edgecombe in this draft coming up is going to be perfect as a gap piece between LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. And let's assume that LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, they fall a little bit lower in the standings, and they draft a guy like VJ Edgecombe. And now you have a potential starting lineup of LaMelo Ball, VJ Edgecombe, Brandon Miller, Tijon Saloon, and Mark Williams. That is a lot of length, that's a lot of shooting, and that's a lot of defense. I still feel like the Charlotte Hornets are a season away from being a season away. We really have to see if LaMelo Ball can play north of 65 games this season. And I still think Brandon Miller is going to take a significant jump this season. But even with all that, I still don't see them being a top 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. And the next team I want to talk about is the Miami Heat. You have Jimmy Butler, you have Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez. There's still Nikola Jovic, who I think is going to be very good this season. But I feel as though the Miami Heat will not up the rankings in the Eastern Conference until Bam Adebayo is made the number 1 on this team. I think we see in the Olympics that Bam can be unlocked a lot more as an offensive piece and as a defensive piece. You draft Kel'el Ware, you can move Bam Adebayo to the 4. I think Kel'el Ware can mess around and start by the halfway mark of the season, and you move Bam Adebayo to the 4, giving him more space to be that roamer on defense, which he is really good at. And then you have guys like Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier, who are going to be constant scorers for you. But to mention all that, I still don't see this team having a better offense than the Indiana Pacers or the Philadelphia 76ers to where they could be a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. Now I want to talk about the Indiana Pacers. This is a really good team in my opinion. I just don't think they are in the upper echelon or have the talent to be in an upper echelon tier in the Eastern Conference, because a lot of these teams in the East, every team that I'm about to put ahead of them have gotten better, or they kept their team together that was already better than them. When we talk about guys like the Cavs, the Sixers, the Magic, the Bucks. I also love what Tyrese Halliburton can become. He can also be one of the greatest playmakers that the league has seen, or at least one of the best in the league. But let's be honest, they faced a lot of injuries, or they went against a lot of injuries to get to their Eastern Conference Finals run, and I don't think that will happen this season. Okay, so as you guys can tell, this is the very next day. It's the very next day. I did not get a chance to finish the video last night, but we're going to get back into it. Starting with my 6th seed, I'm going to go with the Orlando Magic. As a matter of fact, we're just going to go with playoff locks, and that's the Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I just want to talk about the Orlando Magic real fast. Paolo Banchero, I think he's going to take that leap this season. Last year, he averaged, 22 points, maybe 9 rebounds. Well, in the playoffs, he averaged 27 points and 9 rebounds, upping his three-point percentage to 40% when he shot 33% during the regular season, and he shot 45% from the field, which he shot in the regular season. Now, one thing about the Orlando Magic is we know that they're going to be a great defense. It's about the outside shooting that I really wish the Orlando Magic would get a little bit better at. And then they definitely been making leaps in the right direction. You bring in a guy like KCP, you draft Tristan da Silva, who I think is going to be an outside shooter immediately. And Jet Howard is also a very good shooter off the bench that should look to get some minutes this season. But when it just comes to, like I said, the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference, I don't really think that the Magic are in that tier of team or better than those teams. And you may not see the progression in wins or placement in the Eastern Conference, but I definitely think they're going to be better than they were last year. And as for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they still have a very talented roster. I do think they have a very good defense, and they'll be able to guard some of the Joel Embiids and Giannis's in this conference just with the wall that they can build with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. But I don't see this team as being a contender due to Darius Garland still being question mark, Evan Mobley still being a question mark offensively. I think their only definitive scorer on this team is Donovan Mitchell. And I just don't think Donovan Mitchell is going to be the one to carry the weight offensively by himself in a playoff setting, and Cleveland can still get to an Eastern Conference Finals or maybe even the Finals. I still don't think they re-sign Isaac Okoro, who I think is one of their better perimeter defenders. Jalen Tyson looks like a very good player. He maybe can slide to the 3. I think he's 6'7". He can play make. He can shoot the ball. He can create with the ball in his hand. But as for the Cavs, I just don't think that they're an NBA Finals contender, at least in the Eastern Conference. Now we are going to be moving on to our final tier, and then we're going to get into our 1 through 15 standings. And those are my contenders, and that is the Celtics, Knicks, Bucks, and 76ers. And I think you guys are going to see in this final ranking of the standings, I'm going to have the Cleveland Cavaliers higher than the Bucks and the 76ers because I think the Cavs will have a better regular season. But as for playoff time, I think the Bucks and 76ers would beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in a 7-game series. But first team we're going to be talking about is the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think a fully healthy Philadelphia 76ers team has a chance to go to the finals. I think the Boston Celtics are the Best team in the East by far. I still think they are definitively the best team in the East, but the Philadelphia 76ers have something that they can really use to put a crack in their armor, and that is the down low defense. Kristaps Porzingis is always a health concern. Al Horford is getting 1 year older every year. Xavier Tillman, I don't think is going to be able to stop Joel Embiid. I don't think Luke Cornett's going to be able to do it either. I think the Philadelphia 76ers have a chance to be the first seed in the East this year because that's what they were before Joel Embiid got hurt. Either they were first or they were top three. They were top three for sure. So it's all about health with them. I mean, Paul George and Joel Embiid are two guys who are questionable around playoff time every single year. Either they're questionable or they're not playing up to par that Paul George and Joel Embiid, those names come with. And I think Tyrese Maxey is going to ascend as a better point guard. He's already in my top 10. We're going to get that list later in the offseason. But once again, man, it all rides on Joel Embiid and Paul George. If these guys can be healthy, I give them a shot against anybody. Next team we're going to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they had a very solid offseason. You bring in Gary Trent, or at least when it comes to free agency, I think they did pretty good bringing in Gary Trent. You get another year of a healthy Dame and Giannis, hopefully, because the last two playoffs, Giannis has had some injury concerns. But when it comes to the draft, I mean, you guys get two players that are project players when you're trying to win now. If you look outside of the top five, this is probably one of the deepest drafts we've seen when it comes to NBA-ready players. Instead, you go and get a guy like A.J. Johnson, who is just a complete project player. I'm not going to sit here and say he's bad, but that is not what you needed at the moment. Next, I'm going to talk about the New York Knicks, who I think have the best chance of beating the Boston Celtics this year. The New York Knicks had a great offseason. They go get Mikal Bridges. They re-signed Jalen Brunson on a pretty hefty player. Hold on. They go and sign Jalen Brunson on a pretty hefty pay cut. I think the New York Knicks had a great offseason, in my opinion. And when it comes to matching up against Boston, you get some of the best wing defenders in the league in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. And those two guys, I think, are going to be able to go against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the defensive side of the ball and hold their own. And then you have Jalen Brunson, who has cemented himself as a top 5 point guard in this league and the way he performed in the playoffs last year. The only question, in my opinion, is Julius Randle. Is he going to be able to come back? Is he going to be able to mesh well with this new team? Because there has to be some type of questions when it comes to Julius Randle coming back into this New York Knicks team when they've kind of built an identity without him. So when it comes to him, and especially the player he is, one that shows his frustration wide openly to the world when he's on the court and when he's frustrated on the court, is he going to be able to embrace that role, or is he going to bring the team down with him? And I think that's going to be a bad look for him if he's not able to acclimate himself into this team. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics, in my opinion, is still the best team in the league with Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday. And then they brought all their guys back. When we look at some of these championship teams, they have lost key pieces, especially if we talk about the Denver Nuggets. And to be completely honest, I don't see any of these teams beating the Boston Celtics. I think it can be done, but do I think it will happen? No. I think from a roster standpoint and just bringing back the continuity of this team, I think the Boston Celtics will be the best team in the Eastern Conference yet again this season. It's just I don't think a team in the Eastern Conference fits as perfectly as the Boston Celtics do. And this is my final standings prediction. This is not the final one of the offseason. This is the final one of this video. I'm going to do a more deep dive maybe later in the offseason right before the season starts. But at number 1, I have the Boston Celtics. At number 2, I have the New York Knicks. The 3, Cleveland Cavaliers. 4, Bucks. 5, Sixers. 6, Magic. 7, Pacers. 8, Heat. 9, Hornets. 10, Hawks. 11, Raptors. 12, Pistons. 13, Bulls. 14, Wizards. And 15, Nets. If you guys disagree with my Eastern Conference standings, you guys can definitely voice your opinion in the comment section. And while you're in the comment section, why don't you go ahead and hit me with a subscribe? You know, we giving away NBA 2K if we hit 500 subs before it comes out. So I need you guys to subscribe. And if you guys like this type of content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm out. Peace.